Hello, my good friends. This is Mr. Davis again. This is a video that is not mandatory. So if you start opening this video and you hear me say it's not mandatory, you don't need to watch it. I did see that 3 people watched the video from yesterday about how to find facts quickly. I hope that helps you. It definitely helped me because I didn't know exactly how to do it until I Google searched it, and I hope it helped you. So what I want to talk about today is another document that I created. I need to put a little bit of onus on you to help you out. So what I created is a unit years, topics, and terms. And why I did that is because you will see a prompt. Let me just find a prompt here. So you'll see a prompt like this. Let me see if the images will bring it up. Trying to find. So I want to show you the exact prompt here. So this might be it. So this is just a random prompt. Using the documents and your knowledge of world history, compare industrialization in Japan and Russia between 1850 and 1914. So you could get something like that, and they're talking about industrialization, and they're talking about Japan and Russia. So you'd have to talk about industrialization in Japan and Russia, not just Japan in your thesis. They give you the years 1850 to 1914, which is what you want to use for your context. All right, so what I made that for is I made this unit. So I just gave you the title of the units, which can be helpful. And then it was seven. So you would find Industrial Revolution would be in the 1750s to 1900, and it would fall under Unit 5. Now, in this document, I have not gotten to Unit 5. I've only gotten through most of Unit 3 here to Russia. And what this is here is I wanted just to give you one stop to see, okay, they're talking about 1850. What time period would 1850 be? That would be in both of these time periods, Unit 5 and Unit 6, Age of Imperialism and the Revolutions. So, of course, they talked about Industrial Revolution. Also, then Age of Imperialism also is helpful, would give you helpful facts here. And then what I did so you could stay in the same document. Now, I didn't put definitions. This is where you would have to come in and put definitions. Let's just say if it was a prompt about the Silk Road. Okay, so what I did is I put Unit 2, had one of the main topics in Unit 2 is Silk Road, and I put like 6 or 7 words to put in there. Caravanserais, banking houses, Samarkand, Merv, from China to Constantinople, camel saddles. I should also include stirrups. So the Silk Road and the Mongols go hand in hand. So what that is, for one, to jog your memory, and two, to give you pieces of outside evidence. That's what this document is for: context and outside evidence, because it's 3 points, and some of you guys should just dominate those 3 points: context and outside evidence. Okay, so this would hopefully be like a little bit of a roadmap for you, and you can just, if you this document probably will end up being like a couple pages. I think if you go to edit, so like if it was something about the Ottomans here, and it was some Ottoman, okay, it's going to should take me right to where the Ottomans are on here. It can be helpful. That might not be as helpful as it was. Might not be as helpful as it is in the Google slideshow, but it is a tip. Sometimes you can go to find here, and if I go to Ottoman, So that's a little bit better. So if you're in a Google Doc, what I would recommend you doing if you're using Google Chrome is to go to these three buttons right here and type in Ottoman. When I went to these three buttons inside a Google slide, it was not taking me to the word Ottoman inside a Google slide. So that's what I would recommend. If you're using Google Chrome, go to these three dots, hit find, and it'll bring you anything. So if it's the Ottomans, maybe it's the Mughals. Okay, it'll take you right to the Mughals. Okay, and then give you facts. Okay, Muslims ruling Hinduism, Sikhism, which somebody used. I think Claire used Sikhism in one of our outside facts when we were talking about land-based empires. DBGO, Akbar the Great, religious tolerance. That's why he was great. Aurangzeb, no tolerance. He did not, he taxed the Muslims. So I'm going to try to get all 6 units on here for you and have bullets of different terms. I'm almost through, just about all the way through Unit 3, so I need to get Units 4 and 5. What I would recommend you doing, which we do all the time, is go File, make a copy, and just put, your name, and then unit years, topics, terms, or just maybe take out the copy part and just do your initials in there. So I just say CD. Okay. That way, the first thing that pops up is this instead of my initials. Okay. So that's what I would recommend you doing when you do that, because I'm not going to put in a definition of a couple hundred words. So when you do that, you can, if you think it's something you can't remember, you put in a definition. Also, I may do this, but I need to really put the work on you a little bit here. Include a year. If you think the Ottomans might be on there, 1453 is when that happened. You can't dispute 1453 is when the Ottomans took down Constantinople, okay, in the Byzantine Empire. So put in a few dates there because you can't dispute dates, okay? So that is one thing that's helpful. Also, let me just bring this up here. This is a picture we looked at earlier in the year. See if this will come up. Okay, so this is a picture that we looked at in the beginning of the year. I'm just going to copy this and just put it down here for a second. All right. So we hipped this picture in class, and hipping was what's the historical context of this picture, who's the intended audience, what was the point of the view of the person that made it, and what was the purpose. Okay, so the historical context is this is 9/11 going on, but the historical context of this picture is this was, I wouldn't say it's propaganda, but they use this picture as a challenge to Colin Kaepernick's Nike ad. Colin Kaepernick said, like, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, or believe in something along that lines. And somebody made this, and they said this man should be the face of Nike, not Colin Kaepernick. And so the historical context of this picture is that this ad was made in response to Colin Kaepernick. It was not made as soon as 9/11 happened. So they made this ad in response to Colin Kaepernick. That's the historical context. The intended audience would be pretty much anybody that was fed up with Nike. That was the intended audience. The point of view of the person that took this picture and turned it into kind of like propaganda advertisement. The point of view is that Nike should not be celebrating somebody like Colin Kaepernick, who is what they would have said is un-American. I won't get into that debate whether or not he's being his view is un-American. But the point of view was of the person that's created this picture, turned it into an advertisement. Is this person is a hero? Colin Kaepernick is not a hero. Should not be celebrated. We need to celebrate, American heroes. The purpose of this, I would say, to get people fired up about Nike, to boycott Nike, to boycott anything that Colin Kaepernick is involved in. So those are things that you could use to like HIP and HIPP to HIP a document like this, if you got it. The good thing, we kind of overkill HIP a little bit, because you can get a point if you get the purpose of a document correct. But I do want you to write like basically it's one or two sentences when you source, and I want you to go through and HIP the whole source because there's a chance that you might get the historical context wrong, but you get the purpose of the document correct. So you need to, if you do that 2 times, you'll get 2 points if you do it correctly about a document. Another thing that I want to go over a little bit, let me just see here. If we go back to this prompt right here, if this will come up for us. One thing I think it's really important for you to, this is a website that had that. You need to take a stand. One thing that I'm seeing, and it's going to really be detrimental to you that you do this. Like if you say Japan and Russia changed the world forever, that's not a really good argument. Okay, the world was changed forever by the Industrial Revolution. The world forever was changed. Like you get the point. You gotta give us evidence in your thesis. That's why I really think it's that although X, Y plus B, therefore C, or whatever the letters I put for the thesis formula. That's why it's so good to use that formula, because one, it tells the reader, hey, this is my thesis. And unfortunately, some of you guys that did not highlight the papers, your GBQ practice, it was a little bit hard for me to see exactly where your thesis was. And especially if you didn't put a good thesis and it wasn't highlighted, I didn't really have an idea what your intended thesis was because you didn't make a strong enough argument. So that's why I really think you should do the although the X, A plus B, therefore C. So let me just do this. I can just like say that like Colin Kaepernick was like a topic, a prompt. Okay, so although X, A plus B, therefore C. Okay, so basically, like if a prompt was evaluate the extent of Colin Kaepernick's influence on American society, and if I don't agree with Colin Kaepernick, I'll just say although this initial. Okay, so I'm just working through this. Here, so just give me a second. And if your thesis, you can make an argument is the most important thing. So if you do spend extra time on a thesis compared to other parts of your document, that I would say that's okay. So therefore, Colin Kaepernick's. Okay, so that's my thesis. So again, it's not this one little like sentence. You gotta put a little bit of context to your A, B, and see to your variables, I guess you would say. So here's my thesis. Although Colin Kaepernick did have some political viewpoints that were strong, the way he went about his protest and the fact that he disrespected the national anthem were not the right way of bringing change. Therefore, Colin Kaepernick's protests were not successful in America. So I'm going to argue that his protests were not successful, and I'm going to use some of this information. He disrespected the flag and kneeling during the national anthem. So that's a pretty clear cut. That is what I'm arguing, that his protests were not successful. If you just would say, we're wrong, stuff like that, that's not really a strong thesis statement. And really, the reader's not going um, to even find that thesis in your writing, probably. Okay, so Colin Kaepernick did not change the world. Well, tell me why he didn't change the world. He didn't change the world because he didn't bring people together. He alienated players and owners, that kind of stuff. So be strong with your thesis. Make sure you have a good thesis. Lastly, I want to bring up here, if I can find this. Okay, I found this on the internet. I talked about this last week. I'm actually in this document, so that's easy. So here, I would like for you, if you are having trouble getting through talking about 4 documents, that is okay. So this is 8 steps, kinda to an 8. So a teacher said, you know what? A lot of my students are really struggling because one, there's pressure of the AP test. There's a pressure of doing things online and just not being normal. It's not sitting at a desk. They feel like 45 minutes is more like only 40 minutes when you have to deal with technology. So some teachers were saying, you know what? We're having issues with kids getting through uh, all 4 documents to write about. So there is a way to write about 2 documents and still get an 8 out of 10, which if you get an 8 out of 10, you're getting college credit for sure. Really, some people say if you get a 5 to 6, it could be college credit. All right, so these are just how you would get the points. And really, you would only be losing a point, 1 point on not arguing with 4 documents. You only argued with 2. And so that's the only point you really lose. So this just goes through and tells you how to be successful using the 2 doc method. The only thing I would I if you have time, I think it's better to argue with 4 documents, because chances are one of your arguments with a document could be wrong. So if you make the wrong argument out of 2, you're not going to get any points. But if you make the wrong argument out of 1 of your 4 documents that you discuss, then you're still going to get a point, okay? Because you have that point to fall back on because you've at least argued about 2 documents, okay? I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to put this up there, attach it, and I'm going to also give you a Unit 6 5 doc DBQ. If you want to do that, you can send it in to me. All right, so the one thing, again, my disclaimer about only using 2 docs is you still want to read over the other documents, because you don't want to put in outside evidence that's already been discussed. So if you get a document about the Industrial Revolution, and the 2 documents that you use are ones about Karl Marx and something else, you don't want to put in a fact that's already included in one of the documents that you didn't bother to read. I hope that makes sense. So read the other documents just so that your outside evidence are truly outside evidence. They're not already found in the docs. And also make sure when you put in outside evidence, you have to argue about or argue with the outside evidence. Okay, you can't just say, like a lawyer, this is a knife. You have to say, this is a knife that was found at the crime scene that was used at the scene of the crime, etc. Okay, so I will stop there. I'll put up a practice DBQ if you want to read it. So I know these are long, but you don't have to do them, so that's kind of nice. For whatever reason, there's a Happy Valentine's